Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Emma. Welcome to my home in Washington Heights. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Emma Poole. I am a yoga teacher here in New York, and we are in Washington Heights. So I have lived in New York for 13 years next month. I came here in October of 2011 when I was 22. I moved into this apartment in July of 2020, so I've been here a little over 4 years. And prior to living here, I had always lived with roommates. I loved my old apartment, but there were 3 of us, and I just never thought living alone was something that I could make happen. And during the pandemic, I started teaching from home a lot. I created an online business, and I began making, honestly, more money than I had ever made, and it was always a dream of mine to live by myself. So when that started happening, I just began saving a ton of money. A friend of mine who lived in the building next door to this at the time texted me one day, and she said, "Hey, my super just let me know there's one apartment that opened if you want to take a peek at it before it goes on the market." And I said, "No, I'm not ready. I don't know if I can do this." And she said, "Just see it." I said, "Okay." So she took me to see it, and we opened the door, and I was like, "I love it." So I remember it was just this very visceral feeling of, oh my gosh, this could be mine. I remember standing in this room, actually, it was empty, no furniture, and I was visualizing how I would decorate it and what I would do with it. And so about a week later, I signed a lease and I moved in, and now it's been for a little over 4 years here, and I love it. So obviously I adore my apartment, the structure of it, the look of it, but the neighborhood that I live in is really amazing. I know all of my neighbors. They're the type of people who will give you some butter if you're out of butter, or bring over a can of pasta if you need it. It feels like a place that is a community, and like you say hi to everybody on the street. And then just the apartment in itself, I think so much of why I love it is the story of how I got it at that time in my life. I was in a big time of transition. I had just turned 31, was sort of unsure about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And being in this space really allowed me time to sit and get quiet and visualize the life that I wanted to create. And a lot of how my work has changed in the last few years was born here. And it was where my dog spent the last 4 years of her life, and that's really sacred to me. So there's just so much memory and love in here. I've had, friends over and gatherings and parties, and it just feels very much an extension of who I am. So this is my entryway, or foyer, as we call it. There's some art here. As you can see, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's sort of a running joke that my apartment has a lot of female accents in it. So one of my friends actually made this for me. So I was like, why not put it right when you walk in? And this area has changed a little bit recently. The bench that's in the living room used to be here, and this bench used to be in my hallway. I bought this many years ago, and for a while I was never really using it. Let's go in. Okay, so this is my living area. I have my little bedroom here, my living room. When I first moved in, I just wanted to figure out how to separate the spaces. So that's where this shelf comes in. That was one of my first purchases ever, and that's changed a lot, especially for today. I dusted it. Anyway, okay, so this area under the TV, which, by the way, I once had somebody over and he was like, "Oh, so you watch TV on your laptop?" He was making fun of my small TV, but I kind of like it. This is where my dog's bed used to be, right under the television, and she's right here. This is her box of ashes, so that's really sacred to me, Emma Poole, and that's her, my little piglet. So after she died, I didn't change it for a while. I just was not ready, but I was feeling up to it one day, And I took the bench that was in my foyer and I made it into a shelf, and I just put things that I loved on it. As you can see, there's a lot of women. There's some rocks from when I was hiking in the Red Rocks with my friend. There are incense. I'm always burning incense. There's crystals. There's some tarot cards. And it almost feels like an altar, like a space that is a tribute to her in a way, and yet is filled with things that I adore. This is also Robin. She's everywhere. And to the right of the TV is a picture of my young mother. I think she was 21, 22, honestly. I don't know. But my mom has some legs for days. So I told her I was going to hang the photo when I first moved in. And she was like, honey, please do not hang the photo. And I said, I have to hang the photo. So that's Mom. And that's Robin, the two most important women in my life. So this area of plants, I've always had plants. I've always had lots of green in the space. But I was plant sitting for a neighbor a couple months ago. These are all my own plants, but at the time I only had this one, and I loved how it looked with more plants in it. So when she took her plants back, I was like, I have to supplement. So this is my little plant section. I have heard that plants like being around each other, so that's why I have them all clustered like this, and I just think it gives some depth to the space. A lot of my finds are thrift store finds. I really prefer more vintage over modern, so I'm always looking for stuff like that. I got the candle holder and the mirror at a vintage store in Cape Cod. This is wind chimes from my mother's town in Cape Cod, because I always grew up with them. And oh, we're at Nana. This is my Nana Marilyn when she was a young lady. My Nana was beautiful and wonderful, and she just would have loved seeing me in my own space, and she would have loved Robin so much. So I try to keep her out in the world. Getting into my little bedroom area. So one thing about my bed, it used to have legs on it. It used to be higher up. And when Robin was getting older, her legs were not working very well, her joints, and I took the legs off my bed so that she could get up there on her own. And recently I was like, oh, maybe I'll put my legs back on my bed, and I could not find them in my closet. So we're just hanging. We're hanging with a low bed, and it's fine. It honestly makes me kind of happy. This wall was not always mauve. It used to be white. And one day I was sitting in my apartment. I had the other wall, the green wall, painted, and it just didn't feel cohesive. I wanted something to make it sort of counter the forest green. So I painted this myself one day. I mixed a couple paints, white and purple, and I just smudged it, and I really like how it ended up. It feels very warm and easeful in here, which is what I'm going for. This little nightstand is a vintage find that my friend got at an estate sale at this old woman's house. It kind of had witchy, it feels like witchy to me. So I keep some tchotchkes in here. I keep my books and my journals, another naked women, shocker. But yeah, this is where I hang out. I'm not somebody who like only sleeps in their bed. I do work on my bed. I eat on my bed. I love this little room, and I like this angle sort of looking out at the apartment because you can feel the flow of it. So that's my bed. This dresser was the first thing I ever purchased moving to New York. I got it for $60 at a thrift store. I think my Uber ride to bring it home was almost that expensive. But yeah, this was my first kind of thrift store purchase. I've changed the knobs since getting it, but that was one of my first ever purchases. So it's special to me. So I got super lucky with this apartment. When I was first looking, I was looking at studios and thinking I would live in a place where it was just one room with a little kitchen on the wall. And this is technically a studio, but it's actually 4 different rooms. So I have this main area, I have a separate kitchen, a dine-in, a foyer, and a bathroom. My bathroom honestly gets a lot of time because I take a lot of baths in the pink bathtub. But yeah, in this section of New York, a lot of the buildings are from the 1920s. So you're getting a lot more space. You're getting built-in bookshelves and archways. And I truly just couldn't be more grateful that my first apartment ever living by myself was this massive. Honestly, my friends who live downtown come over and are like, wait, what? Every day I wake up and I feel grateful. So a lot of my inspiration comes from women. I love the female form. I love round things, like my coffee table is round. I have a round lamp, circular, kind of infinite vibe, I guess. Anyway, my niece who's 8 was visiting me this winter, and she looks around and she was like, Emma, why are there so many naked women in this apartment? And I said, I don't know. I just love them. So yeah, I would say feminine, earthy, warm is what I'm going for. So this shelf obviously acts almost like a barrier or a boundary, and I wanted it to be open. I wanted you to be able to sort of see the sitting area. I have another photo of Robin. You're gonna just find that she's in every section. This is a little singing bowl, if you would like a demo. I use this sometimes when I'm teaching. So I have a lot of books, but I don't have a ton of shelving, at least in the home. So the bottom shelf is mostly some of my top books, some of my favorite books. And I like displaying books so that when people stay here, they can just read at their own leisure. What else? Oh, this little lady holding the moon was a gift from a student of mine. I'm gonna turn it on really quick so you can see her light up. Yeah, so my friend Elizabeth got me this. It's a little bit broken on the end, but I don't mind. But she kind of she's like a mascot of this apartment. So that's my moon lady. This little lady on top, I got at a thrift store in upstate New York when I was leading a yoga retreat there. And I don't know why I needed her. I just needed her. So she doesn't have a name. We could name her today. But yeah, she just hangs up there. I like having things at different levels, and I think that's why I put her there, and she kind of watches over the apartment. And then, just incense and sage and all the cliche yoga teacher things. This is my little mat and my props and where I grab from when I'm teaching online, because I teach virtual classes every week. So when I first moved into this space, I did not have the bookshelf yet, and the bed was actually facing this way. So the head of the bed was right here, and it kind of just felt like the whole room was a bedroom, which was cute. I liked it, but I always just felt like it needed more depth. It needed something separating the two spaces. So when I got this shelf, I loved it because of how open it was. Like, I didn't want something that was a solid structure. I wanted something that you could see through, and this felt like just enough because it stops about halfway in the middle of the room. And no, once I got this shelf, I was really happy with it. I never actually considered doing anything differently. And then I hung some overhead lighting, and I mean, this shelf changes all the time. I rearrange it every few months. I think is good to like move things around just for the energy. It's good to switch things up. So yeah, that was the plan. I might move my bed again. We'll see. I might put the legs on my bed someday, or we'll just keep it as it is. But for now, I'm really happy with it. So this is my workspace to give you the full effect. So I teach downtown. I teach in person, but when I'm teaching online, I set up my camera right here. I have this little ring light that's like half broken, and I put that right here, and I put a chair from my dining room in this space, and I prop my computer on the chair, and then I do the yoga class right here. My mat is kind of crooked right now, but there we go. And then I grab some of my props, and we do a little yoga flow. And when Robin was alive, she would always be in the space. Sometimes she would sneeze or make a weird sound, or she would like bring a chicken container into the living room while I was teaching. And she just became such a part of my classes. So it is a little weird to teach now without her presence in here. I know every one of my students' living rooms. Like, I can look at the screen and just know who's in class based on their Zoom background. And they also know mine, which I love. They saw me move into this space during COVID. I was teaching before moving here. And then they saw this apartment transform from a big empty room to having a couch and then a rug and then a lamp. So it's been really special for them to see the evolution of my space. So probably my favorite thing about teaching yoga is all of the incredible people that I meet. I've been teaching for 11 years. Wow, a little over 11 years. And so many of my students have become friends of mine, and my community just continues to expand outward because I come across these beautiful souls who are kind and giving and open and receptive. And teaching, it's such a specific line of work. I think yoga is very popular nowadays, which in one way is great because more people are doing yoga. And in another way, there's a lot of assumption about what it is, or how you have to look, or what you have to do. And to me, yoga is really just about connection. It's connecting to yourself, and it's connecting to how you feel and the environment that you're in. And I don't know more than anybody else, but I take the tools that I've learned over the last, plus decade, and I help people, I hope, become more comfortable in who they are, in their bodies, in their minds, in their environments. And I think COVID really changed the way that I teach, in that there was just so much happening in the world, and there was less need to create a boundary between my work and myself. So when I started bringing my students into my living room, virtually, they saw where I was spending all of my time. They saw when I did laundry and there were clothes on the couch. There was this kind of like authentic quality, I think, to the way that I was presenting who I was. And my teaching became much more natural. It became more grounded. Some days we wouldn't even do poses. We would just read poetry and cry together. But yeah, teaching yoga has completely changed who I am. It has made me so much more compassionate and empathetic toward people. And it's really reinstated to me that you never know what somebody is going through just by looking at them. I think a lot of us can make assumptions about that, but the more that you sit down and actually talk to people, you realize that we are all going through something at all times, and that's okay. And there's healing in that. And then the gallery wall. So I always knew when I was moving into an apartment that I wanted to create a gallery wall. This wall has changed a lot since I have moved in here. I think it started with one painting. This photo in the middle is of these women, these naked women in the forest. And my friend Becca actually gifted me that as a housewarming gift when I first moved in. So I put the ladies up first, and everything else kind of sprung from that. It's so random. I mean, that's my cousin and I when we were very, very little. I look ridiculous, but I love that photo. And then this is a picture of my mother holding me and my sister. I would say everything on the gallery wall is filled with mementos of things that people have gotten me. Some are old letters. This framed letter, Elizabeth, who is also the moon lamp lady, she wrote me during COVID. She's really good at writing letters. And it's just about going through this crazy time together, and how the pandemic was this really weird, wild, thing that we had never experienced before, and it just speaks to the time, so I wanted to sort of commemorate that. My student got me this photo of a naked lady eating a donut because she said it reminded her of me. And the regular sign I actually just picked up. It's a vintage gas station sign, and my mother could not believe that I paid $35 for a sign that says regular. And she was like, "Why do you like the sign?" I said, "I don't know, I just do." So that's that. Oh, and this is really sacred to me. My friend Sarah, who is beautiful and gifted, drew me this painting of me and Robin for my birthday, and it just captures her beautiful, porky body. So this area right here is probably where I spend the most time in my apartment. I sit on my couch, I watch TV, I do work on my computer. I knew that I wanted a round coffee table when I first moved in. I just didn't know what that would look like. And I was really attracted to the kind of quirky structure of this. It's hollow on the inside, so it's not fully solid, but I liked the little separate pieces of wood. The only downside is that things drop into the pieces all the time. So if I were to flip it upside down, I don't know what you would find. I always have candles burning. I always have flowers. This is sort of my little space. And then I try to I try to keep my remote in a cute little structure. So this is like an altar of sorts. I have my girl, Mary Oliver. I teach from her a lot. She's an incredible poet. And then this rug, actually, I purchased in Morocco, in Marrakesh, at some of the markets when I was in Morocco this past fall leading a yoga retreat. We had a day where we went to the markets, and I just saw this rug and I was like, I want it, I need it, I don't know where I'm gonna put it, but I really like layering pieces. I feel like it gives warmth and coziness to the space. So this is from Morocco. This little lamp is an IKEA lamp. Posted on his like living room or his bedroom had this lamp, and I messaged him and I said, where did you get that lamp? I love it. So that's where that came from. I like the warmth of a circle. I feel like it has good energy. And then my sister gifted me this photo. This was before I moved into this apartment. She said that it reminded her of me, and I love like a naked woman feeling herself. And this chair actually is kind of funny because I used to have this green chair actually where the white chair was. And one day I just became obsessed with wanting a white boucle chair. I don't know why. I just was like, I need a white chair. It needs to be this type of fabric. And I researched and I finally found this one, and I never sit in it. I never sit in it. When I have friends over, people sit here, so that's good. But I like the look of it. It's comfy. Robin used to sit in it. Yeah, so it's a good piece. The one thing that I always knew was that I wanted a forest green wall. I think I painted this wall maybe a month after moving in. I had my friend over, we taped, we put the drop cloth down, and I immediately just loved it. I love earth tones. I love colors that feel warm and comforting. And then last year, I started becoming obsessed with this like Moroccan cornflower blue color. And I painted this wall blue, and I did not like it. It did not come out. It was one of those things where like you think it's gonna look one way and then it does not. So I stenciled over it with this white pattern, and it looked cute, but the whole time I had this wall blue and white, I just was like, it's not me. I don't feel like it's me. But I didn't want to go through painting all of it again. And then I think, gosh, maybe 6 months ago or more, almost, I don't know. But I noticed I had some green paint under my living room or under my kitchen sink, and I was like, let me just see if I have enough. And I had enough, and we are back. She is green again, and I feel like myself. This was gifted to me from my friend Zaza. She just always has cool stuff, and she was moving, and I really liked this little, it's a beverage crate actually from Albany, New York, which is an area that I grew up close to. And right now it's honestly just hiding a lot of my cords, but I like the vintage feel of it. These are also some other books that I have read and displayed. And this is mostly yoga books. Obviously we have a curvy lady because she deserves to be shown, some fresh lavender, and some books about women and about bodies, which obviously are inspirations to me. Yeah, so I this photo here was actually taken from this book, Everybody, which is this beautiful book, lots of different artists in it. And I ended up just framing photos out of the book. I sometimes feel like people think that you have to have a lot of money to have nice art, but I think if you have a good eye and you buy a nice frame, you can do whatever you want with it. So that's sort of the inspiration behind this. I just wanted it to be a beautiful little area. This must be the place sign, kind of random. I wanted a neon sign, and I wanted it to say something cool and meaningful. And this must be the place just feels like this is the moment. We are in the present moment. That is that elusive place that we are always seeking to be, and it's so challenging to actually be there. And then obviously my girl Robs. When dogs are here, they end up running toward that box of ashes, interestingly enough. So I feel like they all sense her, and she would want it that way. She was a diva. So I think it can be overwhelming when designing a space sometimes. I have a friend of mine who just moved into the neighborhood, and she was like, I don't even know what my aesthetic is. And I said, well, why don't you just take a breath, close your eyes, and think about how you want to feel when you're in a space. And that's really how I decorated this room, is how do I want to feel when I'm in here? And that's why there's some deep kind of earth tones paired with, you know, lower lighting. I hate overhead lighting. I love an accent light. I have candles burning all of the time. I always say that plants, candles, and paint can totally transform a space. So that's really the inspiration for this. I don't get a ton of overhead light, which is my one, like, if I could get more natural light, that would be incredible. But I try to use that. Like I want it to feel like a den, like a beautiful, cozy den that's also really pretty to look at, and that doesn't feel too precious. I want people to be able to relax and like sit on the floor or grab a cushion off the couch and just make themselves comfortable. So I think if you're ever overwhelmed with designing a space, you first have to start with looking at what you have. You know, you got to work with the bones, and then just make it an extension of you. I think sometimes it's very trendy to want to do really like a minimalist look or have your house always look perfect. And I think you don't have to do that. Just be comfortable in the space and buy things that make you feel beautiful and inspired. All right, we're going to the bathroom. I know that's not very exciting, but it's actually one of my favorite places in the house. Let's pause here. So I had big plans for this hallway when I first moved in. I was imagining head to toe bookshelves and all the things. And then I was like, I'm not gonna wanna sit in a hallway reading, probably. I'm gonna wanna sit where there's windows. So it honestly became a place where I would buy furniture and then just put the furniture that I never used. But I do love these chairs. These were also gifted to me by a dear friend. They're vintage, they're beautiful. People can sit here if they want. And then this is Robin's bed. I haven't been able to get rid of it. Sometimes I sit on it or I smell her toys just to feel her. So that's what this is right now. And here we are. This is one of my favorite places in my apartment. I love the checkered floors. I love the pink bathtub. I love the water pressure. I love the light, even my weird toilet. Like it's so quirky. It's so 1920s. Yeah, I take probably more baths than most people. And I love a good soap sud. So the bathroom is very sacred to me, even though that's odd to say, but water, like bodies of water. It's just so cleansing. I'm in here all the time. And I wanted to do a sheer curtain just because the space is pretty small. So I feel like having the curtain that you can see through kind of lets the room feel a little bit bigger. Eucalyptus hanging in the shower always. That's really it. I got super lucky. My friends recently stayed here and they were raving about the bathtub. So yeah, this is another photo of Robin that a student of mine, her friend is an artist, and she painted this gorgeous photo, which I feel like it really captures Robin's essence. She just has this like stoic, wise thing about her. So now when everyone goes to the bathroom, they get to know that Robin is watching them. And a plant, obviously. So the pink bathtub came with the house. It's one of my favorite features. It's a very kind of old school situation. In order to take a bath, you have to push this thing down. And I believe this was an old laundry hamper, which I do not use, but it's interesting. But yeah, everything in the bathroom came as is. The tiling was already done. I don't think it's original, but it was redone. But the pink tub in and of itself, she was born with it. So Robin is my muse. She's the love of my life. She was a 65-pound pit bull who looked like a potato. That was one of her nicknames. And she just, we adore each, I mean, I'm talking about it like it's in the present. I was gonna say we adore each other, but I know we do. She's still here in some ways. I adopted her when I was 25. I met a woman who I did my yoga training with, who was affiliated with a shelter, and I said, hey, are they looking for fosters? And she said, give them a call. And they told me they had this one dog, Robin, and I was like, Robin? The name Robin, really? But whatever. We have this one dog, Robin. She's been sitting in the shelter for 2 years, and she's not very marketable because she's 4 years old. She was bred. She has saggy nipples. Nobody wants her. And I was like, let's meet. And the day that I went to the shelter, I saw a few dogs that day and they were all adorable, but Robin came out and she kind of has this like world-ending face. And I just knew. I just knew she was my girl. And they sent me home with a bag of food and a leash. And my plan was to foster. And of course, all my friends knew and my mom knew within I think 2 days. I was like, I can't give her up. And that was almost 10 years ago. So she really grew up with me. We did a lot together. She was my everything, and I miss her every day. But I like talking about her, and when you look at this apartment, you'll see that she is everywhere, and I really hope to make this a tribute to her as well. So the built-in bookshelves are a huge, huge win. Honestly, a lot of these books right now are just extra books that I have, and I didn't have room for it anywhere else. But yeah, this is all of my lip glosses and products. I throw everything here: my keys, my headphones, my wallet. I have some oils that I use for teaching. My friend came over and joked that every lip color I have is basically in the same color scheme. So I guess I have a type. But yeah, this is just random tchotchkes, obviously Robin. And then, welcome to my dining space. It came with a French door, which I'm just gonna open to be dramatic. But this is, I'm really lucky to have this. I honestly don't use this area as much as I thought I would. I thought I would have breakfast here all the time and do work here, but when I'm entertaining, when I have friends over, we eat at the table and I set it really nice and proper. But I like having this space. I feel lucky to have this space. My friend, who is a photographer, is probably so embarrassed on my behalf right now because these photos are not hung straight. And she was like, I cannot believe that you can just live with that. And I was gonna change them for today, but I was like, nope, I'm gonna keep them crooked. It's okay, it doesn't bother me. This is a photo that my niece drew when she was around 5 of me, which I find really charming, just like the pigtails and the eyelashes, and I just was like, that's cute, I have to frame this. And my former roommate, who is very crafty, very talented, he made this little lamp for me, this little overhead lamp. I have since, I cut it on my own to make the light a little bit brighter, and he was like, Emma, you did a terrible job cutting it, but it looks organic. So this is my little dining room. This is just a book. This is my beach reads. This is like random fun books, and I needed some more space. Okay, here we have the kitchen. The tiled floors, as you can see, are similar to the bathroom. I spend a lot of time in the kitchen for obvious reasons. I love to eat. I love to snack. I love to just like be in my kitchen drinking coffee. Yeah, the kitchen is not modern. If I owned this apartment, I would probably maybe redo the shelves, but I kind of love it. I kind of love like how weird and old and cute it is. And so I try to accentuate that theme. I just got these vintage Coca-Cola ads at this thrift store. I think they're from the 1960s, and they're basically saying that Coke is healthy and that you should drink it all the time and that hospitals serve it. So I thought that was funny, and I put them in frames and just decorated the space that way. The one kind of annoying thing about this is that when you're doing the dishes, you have to carry the wet dish over to the dish rack, so the floor can get a little bit wet sometimes, but it's not so bad. And yeah, I try to decorate my fridge with lots of my favorite things. So this is a calendar of goats wearing different clothing. I have old cards I got on my birthday. I have a picture of my young dad. My friend Zaza, who has lent me a lot of the furniture that you see in this space. This is a little redwood tree. because Robin, one of her nicknames is Redwood. So there's just lots of, I like having things that remind me of my family and my friends and community. This is my young Nana, the one that was in the windowsill. She was so beautiful. And yeah, the kitchen is just, it's a place that probably my kitchen and my bathtub are where I spend the most. Oh, and in the window here, we have Miss Rob's again. My friend gifted this to me shortly after she passed. So this is a little stained glass of my girl and more plants for obvious reasons. I think if I were to own this, I might tear down this wall so that the whole space was open concept. I do like having the flow of different rooms, but I also just love like an open floor plan. So I think that's what I would do. I would take down this wall, expand the kitchen, give myself a little bit more counter space, and then just have everything be in the same area. And I would get like, I don't know what color the cabinets would be. They wouldn't be this color, but it's okay. We're working with what we got. And maybe a dishwasher would be nice. I don't need a microwave, but a dishwasher would be cool. So this little area I painted just where you see the pink. It used to be white, and I just always felt like the kitchen needed something. And the only reason it's this color is because I had leftover paint under the sink. And I also have a pink tea kettle. So I was like, let me just accent it. I obviously did not have enough paint to do the whole wall. So I tried to make it intentional. We have some butts. This is the Cafe Luxembourg restaurant. It's one of my favorite restaurants, and this is one of their postcards. And then a mirror because I'm a Leo. I think that home is more of a feeling than a literal place. Although I am somebody who really likes to create a tangible space. I think the nature of my work, I'm guiding people all day long, and it's important for me to have a space where I can come home and just do that. But truly, at the end of the day, like, if this apartment was taken away tomorrow, I would be okay because I have an incredible community of friends and family and students, and I feel that in my work every day. Home is something that we create. It's relationships, it's warmth, it's support, it's showing up for each other. And it's knowing that that energy really can transcend any physical space. So I'm so grateful for the beautiful home that I have, but I also know that it's more a feeling more than anything. Thank you so much for coming by Homeworthy. It has been truly wonderful to share my home with you, but I have to go teach. So I'll see you soon. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.